As the air turns crisp and the holidays draw near, comfort becomes the best gift of all. Quince delivers layers that last, sweaters, outerwear, and everyday essentials that feel luxurious, look timeless, and make holiday dressing and gifting effortless. Quince seriously has it all. $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters made for everyday wear, denim that never goes out of style, silk tops and skirts that add polish, and down outerwear built to take on the season. Perfect for gifting or upgrading your own wardrobe. You know what is at the top of my list? Quince's Italian wool coats. And the Mongolian cashmere dress, I pair it with black riding boots. And the holiday gift this season, gold everyday hoops for everybody in your life. By working directly with ethical, top-tier factories, Quince skips the middlemen and offers prices 50% less than similar brands. Step into the holiday season with layers made to feel good, look polished, and last from Quince. Perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. Go to quince.com/KKC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/KateCasey to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/KateCasey.
Parles-tu français? Hablas español? Parli italiano? If you've used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world. With lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers, Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Wondery. Spelled BABBEL.com/Wondery. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey, and welcome back for this Saturday series episode. Now, to know me is to know that I spent my childhood obsessed with MTV, parked myself in front of the TV for hours. You can blame MTV for my obsession with pop culture. So you can imagine how excited I am to bring to you today my guest, Karen Duffy Lambros, also known as Duff. Now, when MTV first launched in 1981, it didn't just play music videos. It revolutionized how an entire generation experienced music, pop culture, and celebrity. So suddenly, musicians weren't just voices on the radio. They were icons with a look, a vibe, and a story that you could see unfold on screen. MTV became the soundtrack and really the backdrop of the 80s and 90s. It shaped fashion, language, even the way we consumed news and culture. And at the center of it were those VJs, the video jockeys. They were really more than hosts. They were the cool older siblings that we all wanted to hang out with. They would introduce us to new artists, brought us behind the scenes, and they made music television feel personal, spontaneous, alive, and so cool. So one of those unforgettable VJs was Duff. Her energy, wit, and charm made her a standout face of MTV's golden era. And this is most important because the network that wants to find youth culture has officially shut down. So more than ever, it feels like the right time to look back on what MTV meant and how the people like Duff helped make it magic. After her time on air, her life took a profound turn when she received a life-changing health diagnosis. But rather than retreat, she reinvented, channeling her humor, intellect, and heart into writing. She has since become an acclaimed author, exploring resilience, chronic illness, gratitude, and the power of finding joy even in pain. And so in today's episode, we talk about her extraordinary career from the MTV studios to the writer's desk and how she continues to inspire with her words and wisdom. I gotta say, buckle up because she's got some unforgettable celebrity stories that you will not want to miss. How lucky to just get a window into that most special time in our cultural history. And now to know her, it's really a full circle moment. I know that you guys are going to love this episode just as much as I loved interviewing her. Here is my interview with Duff. Karen Duffy. But I know you as Duff. The rest of the world, I think, knows you as Duff, too. When someone says Karen, aren't you thrown off? Like who are you talking about?
I was christened Karen, and I just think my parents scraped the bottle of the name barrel, and I rejected it as soon as, no one in my family has ever called me Karen. my nickname was Cannonball. And so in the family, I'm Canny. And then in school, I was always Duff. So when the word Karen became a pejorative for a bossy know, I kind of was like, oh, I can understand. There's something charmless about Karen. It's these two syllables clashing together with all the grace of a rusty tuna trawler. Like it's just so unlovely. Plus, there's no Saint Karen. There's no superhero named Karen. There's no wonder dogs named Karen, no racehorses. It is a distillation of Saint Catherine. And I think my mom had a crisis because my name was going to be Willie Mae, and I am absolutely a Willie Mae.
Yeah, you are. Mm-hmm.
But she changed the name. But it's funny, just not fitting in with your name is an odd. And lucky I have an easy nickname, Duff, but then that means designated ugly fat friend. So
That's funny.
it also means in England, an unexpected pregnancy. Duff is like a suety pudding, and it's the dust left in a bag of drugs.
Oh, good.
So I still think that Duff in a name off beats Karen.
Beats Karen. Well, one of my best friends from college was Kathleen Duffy. So the same category. And she was an absolute riot and totally, authentically, most uniquely herself. And I think you are the same.
Oh, well, that's a great compliment. And Duffy means clan of the dark-haired. So,
well, she would have been fitting in that as well.
In Gaelic, yeah. It's we're from the west of Ireland, where the Spanish Armada went up the west coast, and that's why 10% of actually everyone in my family is red hair and freckles except me. I'm the only swarthy one.
I'm the only one in my family my immediate family that's blonde. My parents are both very dark-haired.
Interesting.
And my sister too. My sister looks like a Kardashian. Makes no sense.
Amazing.
So maybe we're related.
Wouldn't that be divine? I think I think we all are in a way.
Truly.
But I feel related because you have been entertaining in my ear holes for years. So it's a real honor. I always listen to you on Heather McDonald and on your show because you have been the Annie Sullivan to my Helen Keller of unscripted TV. You are like the Margaret Mead as a cultural anthropologist as well as podcaster.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, it's just so surreal because you were such a part of my obsession with MTV, which really sort of catapulted me into this fascination with pop culture. So I feel like you're so much a part of it.
That was amazing. When I got my job at MTV, I had a degree. I grew up in a big Catholic family, and we were always encouraged to have a sense of service, to give back. Muhammad Ali said, service is the rent we pay for the privilege of being on earth. And so my parents were very much so I started working at a nursing home, and I really loved it. I really connected with the one-to-one. You feel like you're doing something useful. So I went to school to be a gerontologist and moved back to New York. And I was working at the Village Nursing Home where I volunteered when I was 12. And it's the greatest job in the world. I'd be calling bingo like, benign. Yes, I hope your tumor's benign, Mrs. Sella. And I'd give lipsticks and lottery tickets. I would have Frank Sinatra appreciation afternoons and just make macaroni and listen to Sinatra. And I realized that my skill set, working with people who have memory issues, I kind of reverse engineered. Like, okay, so I know how to make people pay attention to me who have a very short attention span. And also with my coloring, like normally in a hospital, it's a white doctor against a white wall wearing a white coat with white hair. But I'm high contrast. So I'm black and white and red. And so babies and old people can really see me. So I was loving this job, and I was like, oh, but I was literally starving. Like I didn't make enough money to and so I got really skinny, and I was out one night and someone was like, oh, we're doing a Gene commercial. And it was Richard Avedon. And I wound up doing this Calvin Klein thing. And I was like, wow, this is like money undiluted by labor. I'm into this. And I figured I started, I got an agent, and then I did a couple movies. And I remember watching one, and I was like, what is it about this movie? And then I realized, oh, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And I have no talent. So I was like, I'll just make I made a unsolicited videotape and sent it to MTV. And without ever being on camera, I wound up getting that job. But I felt that all skills are transferable. And I just had so much fun working at MTV. It was really a joy.
I'm going to tell you why you got that job. I'm going to tell you because you have an innate coolness to yourself. You just seem like just roll with the punches kind of person. You have an iconic look with the dark hair and the red lip. And you have kind of got like that zany, quirky kind of style to yourself. You exert punk rock. And I think that that's what they really wanted to be at that time and truly were. So you just kind of fit in perfectly.
Thank you. It was really interesting because when you're first there at MTV, everyone is the same age. We're all from Long Island, New Jersey. We're all just out of college. And everybody in the studio, my esteemed colleagues, were far more knowledgeable about music. And I was kind of much more into old school Sinatra, Herb Alpert. But I felt that I would look at every day like a fan, not like, oh, look at me, I know everything about, like some people, when they get a job in pop culture, they act like they wrote, directed, and sang a song. So I just approached it as a fan. But one of the interesting things was, since we were all exactly the same, and the only thing that had me in front of the camera was really just millimeters. I mean, it's like we all have the same features, and mine is in one constellation, but everyone, is beautiful. But I realized, oh, everybody wants me to not do that well so that they can try it. So I just was game. I was like, they fire me, what I'm going to do? Like, this is a lark. In the beginning, when I would have to announce the videos, I would just study it because I couldn't really trust the teleprompter. I also think that your eyes look dead if you are just reading a teleprompter.
True.
I really worked on, I read books about memory, and I was able to take a picture of what I needed to say and then look in the camera and deliver it. And that really helped. And I was on thin ice for the first 6 months. And I would just get you get another month contract, another month. And again, that's all, I think it just taught me that it was really out of my hands. The only thing I had control of was that I could do a really good job, still try and be a great person to the people I worked with. And it wound up working out. And that's why the entire time was amazing, Kate. Because, I'd be walking around the city and people ask, how did you get your job? And I said, I will tell you how to do it. Just make a video, show some hustle, make a video and send it to me, and I will hand it in to the talent coordinator. And I would say in the 4 years, I probably got asked 100 times. And in those 4 years, not one person ever made the video, which was amazing. Because I feel like you would have made the video.
No, I absolutely would have. I'm like, what were those idiots? What the hell were they doing? Huh?
I know. I think one of the beautiful things in life is, you can get anywhere you want if you give yourself enough time, if you don't give up. And I really believe in that. I believe that all skills are transferable, and that if you don't give up, you can just rely on the graces and the lessons that you've learned. And that's been a wild ride. So I'm very appreciative. I'm still great friends with my fellow VJs and MTV people. It's really nice.
What were some of the wildest experiences you had during that time? Because, that was just the nexus of everything right there. So you're having not just musicians, but you're having cultural icons walk in and out of the door.
It was incredible. I remember when there was a town hall with Bill Clinton, and MTV did Rock the Vote.
I remember.
Tabitha Soren and Kurt Loder. And I was always joking around, and I was always like asking the question whether boxers or briefs. And Tabitha, I dared her to do it, and she did
No
it.
way. That was from you? I
Yeah,
remember
because
that.
yes, that was amazing. And she's
Wow.
an amazing girl. I just spoke to her this week. She's an amazing photographer. One of the amazing highlights was with Rock the Vote, which again, I thought was a great movement to have young people be awake that they can participate in our democracy. MTV hosted a inaugural ball, and I was the one on the floor. And that was pretty cool, like hearing President Clinton being called, his nickname was Elvis, or Elvis is in the building, and Gore was the Colonel. That was just unbelievable. I was just, and a real joy was when U2 had their, I think it was called Zoo TV tour. It was a huge tour. And last Sunday, I was having lunch with Bono and his wife, Allie. And it was just funny. I was like, gosh, in like 1994, like you were like the biggest thing on television, on MTV. And here we are, a couple of knuckleheads sharing a pizza. So that was pretty awesome too. It was really great.
But that's nice to hear that even those relationships, and it probably so much was founded on you're like all kind of young in this wild time where there really are no rules and you're just building a network. It was like the perfect place for people who were willing to just jump in and hustle and cultivate relationships with people that truly have lasted the test of time.
It's amazing, not to be name droppy, but Bill Murray is one of my best friends. And I met him.
Obsessed.
Okay. He is truly a one-man conga line of good vibes. Like
the only person in my life I've ever been starstruck by.
Well, he gets so much joy out of life, and he just eats life and creates magic. He went to go watch my kid row this summer, and he's just chaos. And like he just walks over, like there's people eating French fries. He just goes and grabs a French fry. He'll sneak up behind people and put his hands over their eyes and then whisper, "No one's ever going to believe you." Like when you tell the story that Bill Murray did that. I met him during an MTV Super Bowl, and he was shilling a movie, and we've been best friends for very, very good friends. We go on vacation every year for 30 years. And he is exactly in real life he's got 6 sons. He's an amazing dad, and he's just as alive and awake. And he loves this philosophy called The Work by Jagurdev. And it's just a joy to see how he can spark an entire room of chaos. He is a gleeful lord of chaos. And it's spectacular.
As you've gotten older, do you look back at that time a little bit sad because to be around so many creative forces at one time, does it feel like there's a little bit of a letdown when you are not working in a space like that?
Well, it's interesting because as we're talking, MTV is shutting down. They are shutting down all of their international, and they really haven't shown a lot of music, but it will just be reality TV only on MTV as of, I believe, like this week. So I recognize that being a part of right when the real world started and how amazing that was as a social experiment, and seeing how then like Jersey Shore, again, like, yeah, you could look at this as mindless TV, but if you could also look at it again, like as a cultural anthropologist, like it's really awesome. I understand that the impermanence of life. And I mean, I certainly was going to age. You have the lifespan of milk as a VJ. So I realized it was not going to be forever, but I'm okay with that. And I loved every minute, and I am grateful for it. And I love seeing like the suits, the guys who invented MTV, like I still see them out all the time. I'm just sad that my kid didn't get we live in New York. I don't have a car. We don't drive. So like when you're in a car, you're listening to music. And I was like, Jack, how do you get new music? Because it was funny when he was a little boy, he's like, how do all these people know your name? MTV used to play music, and I was the VJ 5 nights a week. And he's like, "That's crazy talk. MTV doesn't play music." He just couldn't believe me. And what's interesting is that everything was done on videotape, and so everything that we shot was then recycled. So like I don't have like there's a few people on YouTube that have clips, but like it's not like I can show, oh, this is when I was at the White House, or this was at the Super Bowl, this was with Michael Jackson. Like none of that exists anymore. It's all been recycled.
Taking care of your eyes shouldn't be a hassle. That's why Warby Parker is a one-stop shop for all your vision needs. Our prescription glasses and sunglasses are expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Stop by a nearby store or use our app to virtually try on frames and get personalized recommendations. Did we mention we offer eye exams and take vision insurance too? For everything you need to see, head to your nearest Warby Parker store or visit warbyparker.com today. That's warbyparker.com.
Wow. Well, what did you do after you pivot out of being a VJ? What's your first job after that?
So I told you that I was absolutely I stunk in this movie. The movie was so bad. I think it was called McBain. And it's funny, there's a running joke on The Simpsons that the worst movie in the world is a movie called McBain. And that was the movie I was in. It was a Christopher Walken gangster movie. It was horrible. So I did, lucky for me, I read a script by Peter Farrelly. It was called Power Tool is Not a Toy. And it was so funny. And I was like, I'd love to meet this guy. And he's like, well, they'd like to meet you. So I met with Peter, and a country singer was courting me, and he was very generous and had filled my hotel room with flowers. And it was astounding. I called my girlfriend to fly in. I just flew her in. I was like, you're just not going to believe the amount of flowers that Dwight Yoakam has sent me. So I was like, you want to catch a bear? You set a bear trap. You want to catch a man? You set a man trap. So my best friend flew in, and it's funny, she lives right upstairs in the same apartment building. And Peter came in, and we just loved him. At that point, Peter Farrelly was selling in Orange County round towels. So you didn't have to move your towel when you were sunbathing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of a nut. And I read the script, and I was like, this is amazing. I will do anything to be a part of this script. And he's like, okay, great. Well, he was going on a first date. And my girlfriend and I looked at Peter, and he was wearing like an acid wash car coat with like fake fleece on the inside. And we're like, yeah, you're not going in that jacket. And the funny thing is, Peter went in on that date, and that's his wife, and they've been married.
Way.
And then A Power Tool is Not a Toy turned into Dumb and Dumber. And I tried to get everybody, like Chris Farley and Matt Dillon and Fisher Stevens. I was like, anybody I know. I was like, dude, read this. It's such a great script. They all said no, but Jim Carrey said yes. And then he wanted his girlfriend to play the role I had. And I was like, fantastic. But Pete's like, yeah, but then you're out of a job. And I was like, I would do craft service just to be around this. And he's like, well, there's one part, and it's a guy. And I was like, I have not a lot of vanity. So I did it, and I played a very small part, but it was very sweet. Pete was like, because you've been such a good sport about this, it means nothing, but we're going to give you 1 point on the back end. And 30 years later, it turned out to be something very, very generous. And I've done things with it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still working with great friends with Pete. He's filming over in Jersey City right now. And my son's babysitter is his producer. So,
I love that.
Yeah, I know. It's very cool.
Well, I do think a lot of people who maintain relationships, because it's not easy throughout their life. And I think that speaks a lot to your personality, that all of these people are still people that you check in with and see. Whatever happened to Dwight Yoakam? And when I was thinking about that this afternoon, that you had dated him, is it annoying to go out with a musician? Like, do they just start singing to you? Because I think I would hate that.
it was interesting because women were always throwing themselves at Dwight and at Whit. Whit was very, very handsome. And he was like, people be calling the room or hiding in the shower. And he was like, why aren't you getting mad at me? And I was like, dude, I like you because you're charming and you're funny and
He does seem funny. Yes.
So what, do I have to punish you because everybody else in the world thinks you're charming and funny and really hot? So I kind of felt like I didn't want to get mad at him for something that was out of his control. And also, like, that's his job, is to be the somewhat of the dream. So that was fun. And Dwight was awesome, but I wound up eloping with my husband while I was still dating Dwight. So I ran off to Jamaica with my husband, and, with this guy who was my roommate in a beach house. And we ran to Jamaica and we came back and we wound up getting married. And as soon as I got home, break up with my boyfriend. And I was like, oh, Dwight, we're breaking up again. And he's like, what's it this time? And I was like, oh, I got married this weekend.
Oh my God. So rock and roll though.
And the amazing thing was he then started dating a friend of ours who we love, this girl, Bridget Fonda.
Oh yeah, Bridget Fonda.
And she did the same thing.
She did. Oh yeah, because she married Danny Elfman, right?
Elfman. Yeah. They drove off the road. They were catting around. And I was like, Dwight, look it, man, you are such good luck. Like, women are going to line up to...
You know what? That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. He had some magnetic force field where he allowed people to meet their true soulmates, even though he wasn't part of it.
But he did get married and has a child, and it's a very happy ending for him.
Oh, good.
No, just one of the nicest things was when he finally met John, my husband, and he said, you could not have married a finer gentleman. And that to me shows the character of Dwight. Like he could have had his knickers in a twist, but he did not.
Did you also date Chris Farley?
Yes. You know, Chris was, Kate, I've never seen anything like it. Women, we were talking about like women threw themselves at Chris.
I could believe it.
It was fun. I remember one of our first dates, we went to the Ernest Borgnine lookalike contest, which I had won the year before. And
I could see that.
It was a Mexican restaurant that served margaritas, and they had an Ernest Borgnine lookalike contest and appreciation. So I was like, Chris, do you want to go? And he came to my apartment looking more like Ernest Borgnine than Borgnine. Like he was dressed like the McKell's Navy. He had like the perfect wig and the perfect space between his teeth. I mean, my girlfriend and I just made like Brillo pad hair and wig. We were so cheap. We only bought one jacket. So we each fit in the jacket.
Perfect.
I remember, and Chris wound up winning and beating my title. And I was like, Chris. And he's like, Duff, I pandered to the drunks. And I was like, I know, but you took my title. And he's like, don't worry, baby. Maybe there's an Ed Asner lookalike contest you could enter.
Maybe then you'd be a shoo-in. But you guys kind of have a similar story. I mean, you've got Phil and Carol and 4 siblings, Irish Catholic family, but in New Jersey. And he's got a family that is a similar makeup. So there probably was a lot of familiarity.
Yes. And I got to tell you, like, he was fun. I remember one time he picked me up at MTV and I still had like my studio makeup and it was snowing like crazy. And we were on our way to the Museum of Natural History because I wanted to see the shark documentary. And we saw this little old lady and we're like, can we carry your groceries? Because it was like a crazy New York snowstorm. So we carried this old lady's groceries up to her apartment. And he's like, she has us going up here because no one will be able to hear us scream. He was pretending.
Exactly.
So we're walking through Central Park and he keeps pratfalling. And I think, well, he's a comedian. He's doing this to make me laugh. But then like he's kicking my feet from out under me and like I'm doing face plants. So by the time we get to the museum, all these people are looking at me. And I'm thinking, well, maybe they're looking at me because I'm with Chris Farley. And then I went into the restroom and like all of my studio makeup had just melted with the snow down my face. I looked like Alice Cooper. And I'm like, Chris, why didn't you tell me? And he's like, because I wanted you to look ugly so nobody else would look at you.
Oh
Like,
my God, amazing.
he was just really, really a lot of fun. We were in Canada doing a movie, and they had these like little pedal cabs.
Oh yeah.
So he was with his brother, and he's like, "Oh, wave one down." So I wave one down, and then he and his brother get in. They're like, "Take us to the Barbarian Steakhouse. It's right up that hill." And like the mung beating peddler, like the
Like it's rising. Yeah.
yeah, didn't even hit it. Yeah. But one night I was out to dinner with like Noah Wiley and George Clooney and Chris Farley. And it was at a restaurant called Jones in LA. And I went to go powder my room.
You mean like Jones on Third?
Yes, I think
yeah.
No, Jones.
Okay.
It was kind of like a hipster place. So I went to go powder my nose, and I come back, and like there's a stunningly beautiful woman like sitting in my place, and she's smoking and like putting it out on my table. And I was like, come on, guys, what? Am I invisible? So we're sitting at the table, and it was not a Chinese restaurant. And the waiter comes over and brings a fortune cookie to Chris and said, "Oh, this woman asked me to give this." And we're all like, "Oh, wow." So we're like, "Chris, open it." So he cracks it open, and it's this woman's phone. It's like, "Hi, call me." And it's a number. And we're like, "Whoa, that is a move." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm with you." And so he's driving me home. I was like, "Chris, do you still have that number?" He's like, "Oh no, I got rid of it." And I'm like, aha, I'm on him like a spider monkey. And I go through his top pocket in his jacket, and I'm like, aha, I found it. And for years, we told that story. And I would say 2 years ago, George Clooney said, "Duff, that was me." Who did that? Like, George is a total prankster. He said, "That was me. I did that." He had fortune cookies, and he pretended to put girls' phone numbers in them. So he played a joke on me. And
amazing.
And literally didn't tell me for 25 years. It's extraordinary.
Well, I even hear the stories he does to like Richard Kind, where he pretended, he was like an artist. I mean, he really does do these long game ones.
Really long games. Yeah.
How does one like keep up with all of that at one time?
I think with Richard, who tends to be the like the magnet for most of the practical jokes, just maintaining your sense of humor and like the creativity.
Well, I mean, George could be running a multinational company with the attention he puts into these pranks.
I know it's really extraordinary, and just he is the master, and it's really great. And there's something really lovely. I mean, he has an innate sense of service and about giving back. And when he sold his tequila business, and he's
just my favorite, Casamigos, all day long.
I know. And that he doesn't brag about it, because the whole idea is if you talk about it, it doesn't count. But every penny that he makes goes to human rights. So his coffee business and the tequila business. And he's now doing a non-alcoholic beer, which since he sold, that just was announced today.
Is Paul Newman an inspiration in that way?
Absolutely. He adored Paul in his office. He has pictures of Paul Newman. I think that with his sense of duty and responsibility, and I think it's a really beautiful thing that he is so awake to other people's suffering and the idea of that. Mother Teresa said, "We all can't do great things, but we all can do small things with great love." And I think he does small things with good love, but he never talks about it, which is incredible.
Well, I think I could see why you guys kind of feel probably similar, because he seems like somebody who truly keeps in touch with everybody. I mean, his friends from probably the early years, like Bonnie Hunt, from like living with Bonnie, he's probably checks in with her regularly, and you seem to be very similar.
Yes, there's a real beauty. I think he has mastered the art of friendship, which I think is one of the nicest things you can say about someone.
Yeah, you're right.
Because Bill Murray always says, friendship is so weird. Like, you meet a person and you're like, I like that one. And then you do stuff with them. He's like, isn't that weird? And I was like, yeah, it is. Because, I've probably met a million people, but, there's like a certain group of inside friends. We've always been great friends. We never dated, but he would always invite me to go to events because I wasn't going to jump on his lap when a photographer came around.
Yeah.
And they're sitting at the Emmys, and I'm like, George, how come every time they say your name, they play this like, and he's like, what? And I was like, I don't know, this really weird sound. And he's like, Duff, you have never watched my show. And I was like, no, you're great on that doctor show. And it was the theme song for ER.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really realize it.
You mean to tell me that The Facts of Life is not something that he puts up on a shelf, like as one of his greatest achievements?
Oh, we do. I mean, yeah, we don't let him forget it. But he was amazing in Facts of Life. And that's why I was thinking, if you do your project about school, you have to have George, have him do his, I think he was George the handyman in that show.
He was the handyman. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have The Facts of Life. Oh. Yes, that would be a dream. Now, what's interesting about George is that you were his date to the 1995 Emmys, and you have said that was the last day that you didn't feel pain. And that pivots you into a new chapter because you get a diagnosis. And I feel like I can remember exactly that moment where it was announced that you had this new health concern. Take me back to that time.
I remember it's an amazing experience because my last day of living as a healthy person, and then was photographed, and it was a memorable day.
And you looked great.
Oh, well, thank you. I was having a lot of fun. And we all met, and George said, like, for everybody at ER, let's not just go in limousines. Let's just get let's get a school bus. Let's get an ambulance. Let's all go together. And he was expecting like a big school bus, and we had a very short school bus. And it was great. The whole cast, we drove to the Emmys, and it was a beautiful night. But I was like, wow, all of a sudden I couldn't feel my hand. I was like, wow, it's like my arms are filled with hot ginger ale. And he's like, oh, I have that effect on women. And I was like, oh, this is not good. So I flew from LA back to New York, and my doctor, I went right from the airport to the doctor because I knew it was an intense pain. It was incandescent. It was being set on fire. It was such a sharp, burning, incessant pain. So I went to the doctor, and he said, okay, I have no idea. I'm going to send you to a neurologist. But he said, whatever this is, I'm pretty sure this is going to be serious. And I just want you to be aware of charlatans. And I am so grateful for that man to have said that. And every time I tell this story, I write him a thank you note and say, I just remembered how your kindness of telling me that this was going to be serious and that I have to be serious about it. So I've been diagnosed with it's an inoperable brain lesion called sarcoidosis of the central nervous system. But really what I am is a pain patient, because the lesion got so big that it just crushed all the nerves in my spinal column up to my medulla. So it pretty much like overnight, I lost my health, my fertility, and my career. And it was as if I built a plane by hand, and I was just taking it out on the runway, and I had to like turn around and put it back in the hangar. I could no longer, I can't pass a physical, so I can no longer be employed. Like, you can't be an actor because you have to have a guarantee that you are healthy enough to show up. So it was a really interesting experience because I never thought people could live with chronic pain for 25 years. I didn't think it was possible, but I am grateful that I did have a strong spiritual backbone. And while I was in the hospital, I was reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations and really connected with Stoic philosophy, which essentially says, like, we can't control what happens. We can only control how we respond. And since I was at that point 34, 35, and I had to mourn for my old life. Okay. And that was a lot of fun. And I figured, all right, I've got to figure out a whole new life. And that didn't happen overnight. Like that took a while. And again, like it took a long time to get what I have is a diagnosis of exclusion. And so many people talk about the frustration of not knowing what's going on. And I think I was really comfortable with it because I would just be like, well, I'm just going to pick the most optimistic. Like it didn't really bother me that I don't have a conclusive diagnosis because I think it just gives me some latitude. But it's been really amazing to essentially get another shot at life. And while this life is much quieter, I write books, I'm a hospital chaplain, and I'm a mom. I just am so immeasurably grateful that I am alive and that I don't fear pain because I felt like if I worried like, oh, I'm sick and I never know when I'm going to keel over, or I never know when like the pain will be so intense. I can barely speak. I know it's going to happen. And if I get myself worked up about it, it'll just make it worse. So it's not like, I feel like there's a sense of acceptance. And I think in acceptance is resilience. But I think most like it's gratitude. And through gratitude, that is like the grease shoot to finding optimism. The Stoics say that gratitude is the parent of all virtues. So you can't be courageous without gratitude. You can't be wise without gratitude. You can't be moderate or just. Everything turns back to gratitude. And one of the practices of my life is I write a thank you letter every day. And it's not an email because it's not about reciprocity. Like I'll just read the paper or I'll hear about something and I'll just like take time out of my day. Because people often use gratitude journals, but I feel like that's pretty static. It's kind of like looking in the mirror. But what I really like doing is like sending good vibes through the US Postal Service. And I would recommend this as a panacea for all ills because, you know, whatever you read about, I just have such joy in saying, hey, you did a great job, or I understand what you're going through. And then it has no return address because, again, it's not like I want to put a burden of expectation that you've got to now thank me. No, and that's really worked out for me. That's probably a huge part of my day.
It's just kind of interesting too. You're like a 12-year-old and you're working with patients who really need help. What was that like to go to someone who is the helper to the person who needs help?
Well, it's interesting. In chaplaincy school, the first thing we were taught was caretaking for the caregiver. That often it's extraordinary. The unrecognized labor of women in the United States is extraordinary because it is often on the sister or, you know, the daughter. It's incumbent on them to care for the elderly relative. And I read this astonishing statistic that, you know, it's like $400 billion worth of unrecognized labor that women contribute to keeping our society running. A tip of the hat to us because we are incredible. It is extraordinary that we do this. You know, just all everything that we carry together. It's just extraordinary. We really do an amazing job. I am a big pro-feminist.
Well, also the gratitude part, when you're a hospital chaplain, you're confronted with people that really are just on the edge of moving out of this life. And you must see the most miraculous, awe-inspiring things as people kind of are like usher from one life into another.
I think because I don't fear death, that's what drew me to being a hospital hospice chaplain. And also the fact that I have no sense of smell. So that really helps. So I would say, like when I was doing my practical internship for 2 years at the hospital, I would just say to them, like, give me the stinkers. Like, I'll take every stinker if it's too hard for you, because I have no sense. Like, I'm absolutely, because I was on chemo for so long, I'm completely anosomatic. So I have no sense of smell. But it was really interesting because for my thesis, I wrote about the 7 acts of corporal mercy. It's clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, drink to the thirsty, visiting the imprisoned, bury the dead, tend to the sick. And one of the things that I asked my fellow chaplains, I was like, when we have this gift of holding someone's hand as they're, as they're taking their last breath, and it's incredible. Like, no one says, "Whoa, it's hot. Who's that guy with the pointy tail and the spear?" It's like everything you hear is, "Whoa, this is so beautiful. Who's that beautiful girl? Oh, I see." Like, it's extraordinary. And there hasn't really been a book or a study. There's a great book written by a hospice chaplain called the 9 Regrets of the Dying, which is a really lovely book to read. But there's not a book about like last words. And so I've been collecting them. Steve Jobs on his last, I was saying, "Oh, wow. Oh, wow." So I do believe there is something much greater. And I was just reading about something called the third man syndrome, because my mom's in the hospital. And when I was talking to her, she said, a doctor came in the middle of the night and he had the most beautiful blue eyes. And he held my hand. He said, "This is serious, but you're going to get through it." And then the next day she was like, "Who is that doctor?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's no doctor." And I think, well, it's either our compassionate brains giving us this as a gift, or it is this, it's very, people talk about this third man syndrome, or you can think it's like, I just think it's rather beautiful. And part of the amazing mystery of life is there's so much that we don't know.
In this other chapter, new chapter of your life, when you've written, I believe, 4 books at this point, how has that been a healing part for you? How has it healed your soul by I mean, you're obviously a voracious reader and you're writing every day, but to put 4 books together, how has that been for you in the healing process?
I feel like we all need to find our purpose. And I remember going to the White House when George got his Kennedy Award and meeting with President Biden. And he said about purpose. And we were talking, for some reason, we were talking about purpose. And he said, well, in purpose, the way you find purpose in your life is having something to love, something to do, and something to look forward to.
Okay.
Okay, so something to do, love, look forward to. That to me sounds like a recipe for life. So always having something to do. I love writing. I don't have the physical strength. I'm home a lot, and the fact that by writing I'm getting, I have to read, I have to research. That is a great joy, and I'm talking. My book Backbone was really about embracing a catastrophic illness, like how to live with chronic pain without turning into a chronic pain in the ass. Because it's like, it can get really boring. Like, oh, my neck hurts. I mean, and it's invisible. So nobody sees it. And everybody has something. That was and also a great lesson. But there's a great joy in connecting with people. And I think writing letters, like just a little thank you postcard every day, is an inspiration. And I'm working on my next book right now. I can't wait to wake up in the morning. I mean, you like what you're doing. When you love what you're doing,
Nothing better.
Yeah, there's nothing better. And that's what I hope for everyone. And I figure, I always felt like my message at MTV was like, if I can do this, anybody can do it. And that's where I felt like, come on. I think everyone's got a book in them. I don't believe in scarcity. I believe, like, my husband and son make fun of me because I have the gift of Irish embroidery. Just for the sake of the ears who are listening, I'll try, I may jimmy up a few facts, you cut out the boring bits. And they're like, you're exaggerating. And I was like, but isn't that beautiful? Because that's the way I see the world. I see the world as this big place where great things can happen. And I was like, isn't that better than me sitting around as a chronic invalid, like chewing a hole in your shorts all day? So I've got them around to my side of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, when you were younger, you're just sort of this narrator at the apex of punk rock. And it feels like you're still narrating. It's just, the chaos is kind of changed form.
I think that's I hadn't really thought of it that way. But one of the things at MTV, I always wanted to make it somehow more interesting. I remember saying, in the time it takes to say 7,000 kittens, 7,000 kittens have been born. And I was always trying to weave in weird little facts. And I think that the way I approached MTV was, an extension of the way that I approach life was like, wow, I just snuck into a party and I'm going to dance until they kick me out. So now I've had to have a quieter life, a quieter version of that. As a chaplain, I really dial myself down because it's all about, I can't come in like one woman conga line. I've got to match the energy of the person. But in writing, I feel like I want it to be cataclysmic. I want, when you turn the page, there to be fireworks. I want you to make connections and feel like that's why I fill my books with all types of bits of ephemera. I think when people ask me how to do it, I was like, you know what? You get as much ink out of the pen. I write longhand onto the paper. And then you just, keep a reporter's notebook and then you'll put it in a file. And after a month, you're going to start. And after 2 months, you're going to start seeing, okay, there's something here. So I kind of am encouraging. I think that we all need to read more. Sadly, I just read that only 16% of Americans read for pleasure. So I'm hopeful that
I think the pendulum always swings. You get, short videos and people love that. And then I think they're hungry for something that's more substantial. So I'm sure it'll swing back.
That's exactly what I'm hoping, because we have a responsibility. We can't go through life just as knuckleheads and getting hopped up on cheap dopamine. I know, but I'm guilty of it as well. I mean, I enjoy short videos and I love watching reality TV.
Well, tell everybody where they can follow you, but also where they can get all of your books.
Well, thank you. I'm on Instagram at Duffy Lambros. I think Duff Lambros. And then I have a Substack called The Cent a Day. So a cent a day is 1/100th of a day. And it's a unit of measurement that I borrowed from botany. I would go out in my garden and I'd cut asparagus in the morning. And by the afternoon, it would have grown. I could cut it again. And so a cent a day is 1/100th of a day. And that is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. And there is all this scientific research that if you engage in either your philosophy or some kind of connecting with your spirituality for just 1% of your day, the other 99% will absolutely be enhanced. So it's The Cent a Day on Substack. And then my book, Wise Up, is out you can get it at Amazon. And my other book, Backbone, is also available on Amazon. And Model Patient, I think you can get for free on Amazon. So if you want to start free and then work your way up, just take a look. Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I've just loved this conversation. And to now know you is just so fun and weird and excellent all in the same right. It's just been a real pleasure.
I am so honored, as someone who's been listening to you for years, to finally connect. And I am so grateful. And cheers to many more times. I really had such a lovely time talking with you. And I so admire the empire you've created. You've really done an amazing job. No, you're killing it. So thank you very much for having me as your guest.
Thank you.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest, Duff, and remind you to make sure that you click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review. Also, make sure that you check out the Facebook group, Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get my weekly What to Watch list and unscripted TV by going to katecasey.substack.com. Also, make sure that you check out the bonus episodes. I gotta tell you, you gotta check those out. Apple Podcast and on Patreon. And that's patreon.com/Kate Casey. Then also make sure you follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KateCaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at @KKC. Check back Monday for an all-new What to Watch episode.